I used to think the streets were predictable. You move smart, stay strapped, keep your circle tight, you live another day. But that night taught me the streets don't play fair. They don't care how sharp you are, how much you've seen, or who taught you the game. All it takes is one bad read, one moment of hunger, and your whole life can shift sideways. That night started like any other hustle. Cold wind, empty pockets, and too much pride to ask for help. It was late fall, somewhere around midnight, and the whole block had that kind of stillness that only comes before something goes wrong. Streetlights flickered like they were tired too. My hoodie was pulled low, breath fogging up in front of me, hands deep in my pockets. Behind me, Leon and Taz were whispering about the plan again, voices bouncing off the brick walls. Leon was the brains, or at least he thought he was. Tall, slim, with a scar across his eyebrow that made him look tougher than he actually was. Always talking big, always trying to sound like he knew everything about the game. Taz was different, quiet, twitchy, the kind of dude you didn't turn your back on but still needed around. He was the one who found the lick in the first place. "Old man live alone," Taz had said earlier that day, tapping his phone screen like it was gospel. "Keeps stacks of cash in the crib. No cameras, no dogs, just him and some old car in the garage. Easy money. Where you get that info from?" I'd asked, leaning on a railing outside the corner store. "Girl from over there clean his yard sometimes. Said he keep a safe under his floorboards. Said he don't trust banks. Probably got retirement money sittin' in there collectin' dust." Leon had grinned. Perfect. Quick in and out. No noise, no bodies. I should have known right then something was off. Everything about it sounded too clean. But hunger'll make you ignore your instincts. And I was hungry. Rent due. My mom's lights about to get cut. Little brother asking why there ain't no food in the fridge. So yeah, I ignored that feeling in my gut. The one whispering, "Don't do it, Eli." That's my name, Elijah. But everyone on the block just called me Eli. We walked down Sycamore Avenue, that's where the house was. Quiet neighborhood, not like our block. The kind of place where mailboxes still had flowers painted on them and people waved to each other in the mornings. The old man's house was the last one on the corner. A small brick place with a rusted fence and a big oak tree leaning over the yard. No lights on inside. Curtains drawn. Looked peaceful, too peaceful. Leon peered through the gate, whispering, "Told you, easy work." Taz was already pulling on gloves. We in and out in 5. Me, I stayed back, scanning the street. Something about it felt wrong. Not dangerous, just off. Like the air was holding its breath. "You sure he ain't home?" I asked. Taz smirked. "Man, look at the driveway. Ain't no car. Probably sleepin' somewhere else. Come on." Leon cut the padlock on the gate with bolt cutters, slow and careful. We moved through like shadows, staying low. Every crunch of gravel sounded too loud. Inside the yard, I noticed small things. A rocking chair on the porch, a wind chime barely moving in the breeze, an old radio by the window. This wasn't some rich man's spot. This was somebody's life. Quiet, worn, but lived in. Still, we kept moving. The plan was simple. Get in through the back door, grab the cash, bounce. No noise. No guns unless we had to. I carried my piece anyway. Small 9mm tucked in my waistband. Not 'cause I wanted trouble, but 'cause I'd seen too many jobs go left. Leon picked the back door like he'd done it 100 times. A small click, a creak, and we were inside. The smell hit first, old wood, coffee, gun oil. I froze. "Y'all smell that?" I whispered. Leon frowned. "Man, shut up." We stepped inside. The living room was dim, light from the street leaking through the curtains. Pictures lined the walls. Black and white photos of soldiers, medals in frames, flags folded in glass cases. Taz let out a low whistle. "Yo, this dude a vet." Leon waved him off. Old man, probably half blind by now. But something about the setup, the neatness, the discipline made me uneasy. Everything had its place. Even the TV remote was lined up perfectly with the edge of the table. We moved deeper into the house. Kitchen spotless.
Bedroom door half open.
Silence thick as smoke. Then we heard it, the faint scrape of metal against wood. Like someone dragging a chair. We froze. Leon looked at me, eyes wide. You heard that? Before I could answer, the hallway light flicked on. The old man. He stood there, maybe late 60s, early 70s, but built like he could still throw hands. Gray beard, eyes sharp like broken glass. Wearing a plain white t-shirt and old army pants. In his right hand, a revolver steady as a rock. Put it down, he said, calm but cold. Whatever you came for, it ain't worth dying over. Leon panicked first. Yo, chill old man. The old man fired a warning shot into the ceiling. The sound cracked through the house, dust raining down. Tez ducked behind the couch, cursing. Leon stumbled back, hands up. Me? I didn't move. Couldn't. Those eyes had me locked in place. Y'all kids don't even know whose house you in, he said, voice low, almost sad. I fought for this country, buried brothers for this block, and you come creeping in my home. Leon tried to talk slick. We ain't here to hurt nobody. Then you picked the wrong door, the old man said, leveling the gun at him. Time slowed. I could see Leon's throat bob as he swallowed hard. Taz was inching toward the back door. And me, I was staring at a picture on the wall, a younger version of the old man in uniform standing next to another soldier. That soldier looked familiar. Too familiar. Took a second to register. My heart dropped. That was my uncle, my mom's older brother. The one who died before I was born. I'd seen that picture before in my grandma's house. Which meant, wait, I said, voice shaking. What's your name? The old man's eyes flicked to me. Why? What's your name? I repeated. He frowned. Earl Johnson. I felt the room tilt. That was the name my grandma used to whisper whenever she talked about her brother's best friend from the army. The one who saved him in the field but never came home again after. The one she said was like family. Yo y whispered. You knew Benjamin Cole? The old man's grip loosened just slightly. How you know that name? That's my uncle, I said, stepping forward, hands raised. My mom's brother. You used to come by the house, didn't you? She said you disappeared after he died. Earl blinked, confusion crossing his face. Who's your mom? Marie. Marie Cole. For a long second, nobody moved. Then the old man lowered the gun just a little. Marie, he muttered. Little Marie, damn. Leon saw the hesitation and moved fast. Wrong move. He lunged forward, trying to grab the revolver. A shot went off. The sound was deafening in that small house. Leon screamed, grabbing his shoulder, blood blooming through his hoodie. Taz bolted out the back door. I froze again, then instinct kicked in. I grabbed Leon, yanking him toward the door. Come on, man, we gotta go. Earl stood there, breathing hard, gun still in hand. He didn't shoot again, just watched as we stumbled out the door, blood trailing behind us. We ran through the alley, heartbeats pounding louder than sirens. Leon was half conscious, mumbling curses, blood dripping through my fingers as I tried to hold pressure on his wound. Keep it together, I yelled. He coughed. Old bastard. Shot me. You rushed him, fool. Taz was already gone. Disappeared into the night. Typical. The man always ran when things got hot. By the time we reached my cousin's abandoned spot on Walnut Street, Leon was pale, shaking. I ripped off my hoodie to press against the wound, praying under my breath. Don't you die on me, bro. He gritted his teeth. We shoulda never hit that house. No lie there. I didn't even know what we were thinking anymore. All that easy money talk faded real quick when blood hit the floor. I thought about Earl, the calm in his eyes, the way he didn't kill us even though he could've, and the fact that he knew my family. That connection messed me up. We broke into his house. The man who once saved my uncle's life. I wanted to go back, say something, apologize, but Leon needed help. So I called an ambulance from a payphone, gave them a random address nearby, and dipped before the cops could show. I couldn't get caught. I still had my little brother at home, still had my mom working night shifts, thinking I was just trying to stay out of trouble. I walked home that night under orange streetlights, hands still sticky with Leon's blood, mind racing. Every sound, sirens, dogs barking, wind through trash bags, felt louder than usual. The city felt different, like it was watching me. When I got home, my little brother was asleep on the couch, cartoons still playing. I stood there staring at him, wondering how far gone I was. Was this it? Was this what my uncle died for, so I could be out here robbing the same man who saved him? Next morning, I woke up to banging on my door. My heart dropped, thought it was cops. But when I opened it, it wasn't police. It was Earl. Standing there in the daylight, he looked even older, lines on his face like maps of pain. He wasn't holding a gun this time, just a folded photograph. "We need to talk," he said quietly. I froze. Every instinct said run, but something in his tone, not anger, not threat, just finality, made me step aside. He walked in, looked around my small apartment, then at my little brother eating cereal at the table. "So this how you living now?" he asked, voice soft but heavy. "Breaking into houses for a few dollars?" I didn't answer, just stared at the floor. He sighed, sat down, and unfolded the photograph. It was that same army picture, him and my uncle. "Your uncle died in my arms," he said. "He was a good man. I promised him I'd look after his family when I got back. Guess I broke that promise." I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. "I should call the cops," he continued. "You and your friends broke into my home. One of you got shot. But," he looked at me, eyes softer now, "you're family, and I don't turn family over to the system." Then he leaned forward, lowering his voice. "But you're gonna fix this. You hear me? You're gonna fix all of this." "How?" I asked. He smiled, not kindly, but like a man who already had a plan. "You'll see. I ain't done teaching lessons yet." That was the night everything started to change. The night we tried to rob the wrong old man and ended up waking up something we didn't understand. Because Earl wasn't just some retired vet with old war stories. He was connected deeper than we ever knew. And the next few days, they'd show me that surviving the streets isn't about muscle or money. It's about what you're willing to pay for redemption. He sat across from me in silence for a while, the clock ticking between us. My brother was in the other room, probably wondering why an old man he'd never seen before was sitting at our table like he owned it. Earl didn't say much, just sipped from the glass of water I gave him, eyes moving around my apartment like he was taking inventory of my life. I couldn't look him straight in the face. Every time I tried, I saw that gun again, the flash, Leon screaming. Finally, he spoke. "You working?" I shook my head. "Been trying. Ain't easy out here." He nodded like he already knew the answer. "You still running with those two fools?" "One of 'em gone," I said quietly. "The other one, don't know where he at." Earl leaned back. "Good. You don't need them. You don't need none of that nonsense." I didn't respond. My stomach was turning. I could still smell the old wood of his house, the gunpowder in the air, the blood on my hands. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. "This here's your uncle's funeral program," he said. "I kept it all these years. I wanted to bring it to your mama, but I couldn't face her. Too much I didn't say back then." He slid it across the table. I looked down. My uncle's face stared back at me. Young, smiling, full of life. Same face that used to be in the old pictures in my grandma's house. "I didn't know," I whispered, "about you, about all that. I know you didn't. You was just a kid when it all went down. But that don't change what you did." "I know," he sighed. "You're lucky I'm not the same man I was back then. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here." That made me finally look at him. His eyes weren't angry anymore. They were tired, like someone who'd seen too many wars and lost too many friends. "So what happens now?" I asked. "You come by my house tomorrow," he said. 7 in the morning. "For what?" "To work." "I already told you." He cut me off. "You owe me, boy. You owe me for that blood on your friend's hoodie, for that bullet hole in my ceiling, for what you did to my peace. You gone work it off." I started to protest, but he gave me that look, calm but final. There was no arguing with that kind of tone. When he left, I sat there for a long time staring at the door. My brother came out rubbing his eyes. "Who was that?" "Just somebody from way back," I said. He nodded, too tired to care. I watched him disappear back into his room and wondered how far this was going to go. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flash again. Leon's face twisted in pain. I didn't know if he was alive, locked up, or gone. My phone buzzed around 3 a.m., a blocked number. I didn't answer. I already knew it wasn't good news. When the sun came up, I was already dressed. Earl's house looked different in daylight. The paint peeled in spots, the porch sagged a little, but it had a strange kind of dignity to it, like a man with scars who still stood tall. I knocked once. He opened the door wearing the same plain clothes, but now he had gloves on and a toolbox beside him. "You late. It's 6:58. Late means you didn't beat the sun. Come on." He led me around back to the yard. The place was a mess. Overgrown grass, broken fence panels, junk piled up near the shed. "You want me to clean all this?" "Not want. Need." He handed me gloves and a rake. "You start here. I'll be in the garage." I didn't argue. I just got to it. Hours passed in silence. The cold morning air cut through my hoodie, but I kept moving. Sweat mixed with dirt. My hands ached. Somewhere around noon, I heard music coming from the garage, old soul, crackling through a dusty speaker. Peeked in. Earl was sitting on a stool, cleaning his gun on the workbench. "You know how to shoot?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah. Figures." He nodded at the shelves behind him. "Grab that wooden box." I did. Inside were old medals, a few photographs, and a folded flag. He touched the edge of the flag gently, like it was glass. "That was your uncle's," he said. "He earned it the day he didn't come back." I swallowed hard. "You were there." "I was there for all of it. He saved my life. Took a hit meant for me. I was supposed to bring his body home, but the world don't always let you keep promises." He set the gun down and stared at me. "You look like him when you're not trying so hard to look tough." I didn't know what to say. My chest felt tight. He stood up. "Grab a hammer. Fence needs fixing." We worked the rest of the day without talking. Every now and then, he'd glance at me like he was measuring something. Not my strength, but my patience. When the sun dipped low, he finally said, "Come inside." I followed him into the kitchen. The smell of fried chicken hit me. He'd cooked. 2 plates on the table, simple but warm. "Eat," he said. I hesitated. He sat down first. "You think I'm gonna poison you or something?" "Boy, sit down." I did. The food was good, real good. Been a minute since I'd had a meal that tasted like someone actually cared. Between bites, he said, "That friend of yours, the one who got shot, he's alive, hospitalized. Cops asking questions." I stopped chewing. "What they know?" "Not much yet, but they will. And when they do, they'll come for you." "What am I supposed to do?" "Stay clean. Keep your head down. Let me handle the rest." I stared at him. "Why are you helping me? After what we did?" He leaned back, eyes on the window. "Because your uncle would have wanted me to. And because I see what's coming for you if somebody don't step in." He pointed a finger at me. "You ain't built for prison, Elijah. You still got a shot to turn this around. But if you go back to those streets, they'll eat you alive." Something in his voice hit me deep. Maybe because no one had talked to me like that in years. Not since my mom stopped trying to save me from myself. I nodded slowly. He nodded back. Good. You be here every morning. Same time. We got work to do. That became my routine. Wake up early, head to Earl's, fix whatever needed fixing. The days blurred together. Repairing fences, patching walls, hauling junk to the curb. It was quiet work, honest work, the kind that made you too tired to think about trouble. But the streets never stay quiet for long. On the fourth day, as I was hauling a load of scrap wood to the dumpster, I saw a familiar car creeping down the block. A black Charger, windows tinted. It slowed near Earl's fence, then sped off. My stomach dropped. Taz, that night I couldn't sleep again. I knew what it meant. Taz didn't just drive by to wave. He was watching. Maybe he thought I snitched. Maybe he wanted payback for Leon getting shot. The next morning, I told Earl. He didn't look surprised. Figured that was coming. What you mean? You think word don't travel? Boy, everybody on that side of town knows what happened. They just don't know who you're with now. I ain't with nobody, I said. He gave me a hard look. You are now. I didn't understand it then, but I would soon. That afternoon, he brought me into his garage again. On the workbench sat an old metal case. He opened it, revealing a small stack of documents, some photos, and a folded map. Back in the day, he said, I used to help some folks around here, people who couldn't count on cops. Lost kids, broken families, bad debts. You could call it neighborhood cleanup. I frowned. You was in the game? Not the kind you thinking. I didn't move dope or run corners. I kept the wolves off the sheep. Sometimes with words. Sometimes with other things. He looked me dead in the eye. That Charger you saw? That ain't the first time I dealt with boys like them. I stayed quiet. You want to make this right, you're gonna help me clean this block again. Starting with that one. I hesitated. You saying go after Taz? I'm saying we stop waiting for him to come knocking. The way he said we made my stomach twist. I wasn't ready for that. I wanted out, not deeper in. I ain't trying to get caught up again, I said. Earl stepped closer. Then you better learn how to end it right. You leave snakes behind, they bite later. I'm offering you a way to finish what you started and walk clean. I looked at his hands, steady, scarred. Sure, this was a man who'd done things. Maybe not for money, maybe not for pride, but because he believed in some kind of justice. I nodded slowly. That night, we rode out together in his old pickup. The air was cold, city lights stretching across the windshield. Earl didn't talk much. The radio played old blues songs that sounded like memory itself. When we reached the south side, he parked 2 blocks from a rundown apartment building. That's where your friend's been hiding, he said. Word is he been running his mouth about a job gone bad. Blaming you. My chest tightened. He's saying I set him up? Earl nodded. That's what they all say when they scared. I stared out the window, the weight of it pressing down on me. I didn't want to believe Taz would turn on me, but this city had a way of twisting people fast. What we doing here? Talking. Nothing else unless it has to be. He opened the glove box and handed me a flashlight. You shine it when I tell you. No weapons, no noise. We walked up the narrow stairwell, each step creaking under our weight. The smell of weed and sweat hung in the air. Somewhere down the hall, a baby cried. Earl knocked once on a door, calm and firm. No answer. He knocked again. Finally, the door opened a crack. Taz's eyes appeared in the gap, bloodshot and paranoid. Who? Before he could finish, Earl pushed the door open and walked in like he owned the place. I followed, heart pounding. Taz stumbled back, reaching for something under his hoodie. Earl's voice cut through the air, sharp as glass. Don't even think about it. Taz froze. Earl nodded at me. Tell him why we're here. I swallowed hard. We just need to talk. Taz looked at me, confusion mixing with anger. You brought him here? What, you working for him now? Man, it ain't like that. Then what is it like? You disappear. Cops start asking about me. Leon gets hit. And now you show up with the same old dude that shot him. His hand twitched toward his pocket. Earl didn't move, didn't even blink. Taz, I said, voice shaking, you need to stop talking. You making it worse for yourself. He laughed bitterly. Worse? I'm already drowning, Eli. Then he looked at Earl. You the vet, huh? Heard about you. Folks said you used to run things around here before the gangs moved in. Earl's tone stayed calm. And they were wrong. I never ran nothing. I just cleaned up what they left behind. Taz sneered. You too old to scare anybody now. Before he could blink, Earl moved, fast like muscle memory. 1 second he was standing still, the next he had Taz pinned against the wall, his arm twisted behind him. You right, Earl said softly. I ain't here to scare you. I'm here to teach him what happens when you don't clean up your messes. He looked at me. You see this? This is what waiting gets you. Fear, paranoia, weakness. Taz was struggling, cursing under his breath. Earl let him go. Now, Earl said, you got 2 choices. You disappear quietly, or you make noise and drown in it. Taz stared between us, breathing hard. You both crazy. Earl shrugged. Maybe, but we're still standing. We left without another word. Back in the truck, my hands were shaking. You didn't have to do that, I said. He looked out the window. Yes, I did. You needed to see it. See what? That mercy don't mean weakness. Sometimes it's the only way to stay human. I didn't answer. I just watched the city roll by, streetlights flashing like slow heartbeats. When we got back, he parked the truck and turned to me. This ain't about revenge, Elijah. It's about balance. Your uncle believed in that. You bring harm, you fix it. You break something, you build something better. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I got one more job for you. Tomorrow. What kind of job? He smiled faintly. The kind that'll tell me if you learned anything. I unfolded the paper when I got home. It was an address, an old community center on the east side. Scribbled under it were 4 words. Paint, patch, protect, serve. I didn't understand it then, but it was the first time in years somebody trusted me with something that didn't involve a gun or a getaway plan. That night, I slept without nightmares for the first time in months. But deep down, I knew peace never lasted long in this city. And something about the way Earl said tomorrow made me feel like we were both standing on the edge of something big. Something neither of us could stop once it started. The next morning came gray and heavy, the kind of sky that looked like it hadn't decided whether to rain or not. I woke up before the alarm, sat on the edge of the bed for a while, just staring at that folded paper. The words still looked strange to me. Paint, patch, protect, serve. I didn't even know where to start with that. But Earl's voice was still in my head, and I wasn't about to test him. The address was on 5th and Ramsey, a side of the city I hadn't been to since I was a kid. When I got there, I almost thought I had the wrong spot. The building looked abandoned. Boarded windows, graffiti all over the walls, weeds growing through the sidewalk cracks. The sign above the door used to say Northside Community Center, but half the letters were missing now. Earl was already there, standing by the door with a set of paint buckets and a thermos of coffee. He gave me a nod, like I was late even though I wasn't. Took you long enough, he said. I'm here, ain't I? Being present ain't the same as being ready. I wanted to argue, but I kept quiet. He handed me a roller brush. Start with that wall, he said. You got until noon to make it look like somebody still cares about this place. I looked at him. That's it? You brought me out here to paint. He sipped his coffee. You wanted something harder? I didn't answer, just dipped the roller into the bucket and started working. The paint went on thick, covering years of grime and tags. Every stroke felt like it was doing more than fixing a wall, like it was scrubbing something off me. 2. Earl worked beside me in silence, steady and sure. He didn't rush, didn't talk much, just kept his focus on the brush. There was something peaceful about it, weirdly enough. The smell of paint, the rhythm of the strokes, the sound of traffic in the distance. After an hour, I said, "You used to come here?" He nodded. "Back when it meant something. Your uncle used to coach ball here. Kids from the block. Kept a lot of 'em from getting swallowed up." That hit me. I could almost see it. A younger version of my uncle, laughing, yelling plays, trying to keep kids like me out of trouble. "What happened?" I asked. Earl paused, looking at the wall like it held the answer. "City stopped funding. Then the gangs moved in. After a while, people just gave up." He turned to me. "You ever think about how easy it is for good places to die?" I shrugged. "Everything dies eventually." He gave me a sharp look. "That's quitter talk. Nothing dies unless folks let it." I didn't respond. I didn't want to admit that I'd let a lot of things die, dreams, friendships, even parts of myself. Around noon, we took a break. Earl sat on the steps, pouring 2 cups of coffee from his thermos. I sat beside him, arms aching, hands covered in white paint. "You think painting walls gonna fix anything?" I asked. He took a slow sip before answering. "No, but it's a start. Sometimes you fix the little things so you got the strength to fix the big ones later." I looked around. For the first time, the place didn't look completely hopeless. The walls were clean, bright, almost new. It felt strange, standing in front of something we'd actually fixed instead of broken. Before we left, Earl pointed to a locked metal door at the back of the building. "Tomorrow, we work on what's behind there." "What's behind there?" He smiled faintly. "Memories, and maybe a few ghosts." I didn't like the sound of that. That night, as I walked home, I caught myself feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time, calm. Not happiness, not peace, but something close. I was tired, but it was the good kind of tired, the kind that made you feel like you'd earned your sleep. But peace don't last long in this city. It never does. When I got home, my brother was sitting on the couch watching TV, a half-empty cereal bowl on the floor. "Yo, you good?" he asked. "Yeah, just tired." He nodded toward the screen. "They saying somebody got shot over on 8th last night. You know anything about that?" My stomach tightened. I didn't, but I had a bad feeling. "Nah," I said. "Just stay out of that area." He smirked. "You talk like you ain't from the same block." "Yeah, well, I'm trying not to be." He gave me a look I couldn't read. He was growing up faster than I wanted to admit. The next morning, Earl was already at the community center again, toolbox in hand. He unlocked the back door and nodded for me to follow. Inside, the air was stale and cold. The room was big, empty except for a few broken benches and a basketball hoop with no net. But on the far wall, there were names, hundreds of them, carved or painted in black marker. Some had dates next to them. "Who are they?" I asked. "Kids," he said. "Some gone, some locked up, some just lost. Every name's a story. Your uncle started that wall. Said if you see the names every day, you remember who you're fighting for." I walked closer, running my fingers over the names. One caught my eye, Leon Carter. My chest went tight. "He died?" I asked quietly. Earl nodded. "Cops found him 2 nights ago. Alley off Jefferson." I just stood there. I didn't know what to feel. Guilt, anger, fear. Maybe all of it. "You think Taz?" Earl shook his head. "Don't guess. Don't assume. Just know that when a man lives wrong long enough, the world catches up." I wanted to ask more, but I couldn't. My throat felt dry. We worked the rest of the day in silence, fixing benches, patching walls. But my mind wasn't there. I kept seeing Leon's face, hearing that shot all over again. By the time the sun set, I couldn't take it anymore. "Earl," I said, "I need to know who did it." He wiped sweat from his forehead. "You sure that's something you need? Or something your pride wants?" "Don't matter." I need to know. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Meet me tonight. 11 o'clock. Don't bring nothing stupid. When he said that, I knew it wasn't just a talk. The night was cold again. Sharp wind cutting through my jacket. Earl picked me up in the truck, same as before. We didn't speak. The city lights passed by like ghosts. We ended up near the old rail yard, a dead zone after dark. He parked the truck, turned off the headlights, and waited. A few minutes later, another car pulled up, an old Buick. 2 men got out. One of them I recognized instantly. Taz. My heart started racing. Earl didn't move. Stay quiet. Let me handle this. Taz walked up, nervous energy all over him. You wanted to meet, old man? Earl nodded. I hear Leon's gone. Taz snorted. Ain't my problem. Streets caught up to him. Streets caught up? Or you helped him find him? Taz's eyes flicked toward me. What's he doing here? Learning, Earl said. Taz laughed. Learning what? How to be your little soldier. Earl's tone never changed. I'm teaching him what you never learned, responsibility. Responsibility. Taz stepped closer. You think painting walls gonna fix what we done? You think cleaning up your porch makes you better than us? Earl's eyes hardened. No. But it means I still got a choice. Taz shook his head, looking at me now. You really rolling with this dude? You forgetting where you came from? I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. He sneered. Leon died 'cause he froze. That's what happens when you go soft. That was it. Something inside me snapped. I took a step forward, fists clenched. You don't talk about him. Or what? Before I could move, Earl's hand shot out, stopping me cold. His grip was firm, steady. Not like this, he said quietly. Taz smirked. Yeah, listen to your granddad. Then he got back in his car, slammed the door, and peeled off into the dark. I turned to Earl, shaking. You just gonna let him walk? For now, he said. You think I ain't seen 100 Tazes before? Men like him always write their own endings. But he killed Leon. You don't know that, he said. And even if he did, revenge won't fix it. It'll just drag you back where you came from. I didn't want to hear it. I slammed the truck door and walked away, fists tight, blood boiling. I didn't go home. I wandered the streets for hours trying to make sense of it. Every light felt too bright, every sound too loud. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was almost dawn. My brother was sitting up waiting, eyes red. Where you been? Nowhere. He looked at me hard. You lying. I sighed. You wouldn't understand. He stood up. Try me. You think I don't know what's going on? Folks on the block talking. Saying you out here with some old head who used to run with killers. Watch your mouth. I snapped. He didn't flinch. I ain't scared of you. You out here pretending you different, but you still chasing the same ghosts. His words hit harder than I expected. I didn't even know how to respond. He shook his head and went to his room, slamming the door. I sat there in the quiet, and for the first time in a long time, I realized I didn't even know who I was trying to be anymore. The next morning, I went back to the community center. Earl was already there, painting over more graffiti. You didn't sleep, he said without looking at me. Didn't need to. He nodded. You went after Taz last night? No. Good. We worked in silence for a while. Then he said, you got a choice to make soon. That boy's death, it's gonna come back around. Either you stay on this side with me, or you go back out there and drown with the rest. I wanted to tell him I was done with all that. I wanted to believe it, but part of me still burned for answers. Later that day, as we were locking up, a car pulled up outside. Black Charger, same as before. Earl's face went cold. Stay inside, he said, but I didn't listen. I followed him out. Taz stepped out of the car, but this time he wasn't alone. 2 other guys with him, both armed. Looks like you didn't learn your lesson, Earl said calmly. Taz grinned. Nah, I came for a different kind of lesson. He nodded to his boys. They spread out, hands on their waistbands. Everything slowed down. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Earl didn't move. His hands were empty, but his eyes were sharp as blades. Taz, he said, you walk away right now and this ends here. Taz laughed. Ain't no walking away. Not after what you did to my boy. You mean the boy you got killed? Earl said. That did it. Taz pulled his gun. Before I could think, Earl moved. Faster than I'd ever seen. He grabbed my shoulder, yanked me down just as the shot went off. The bullet hit the wall behind us, shattering brick. Earl pulled his own gun from his jacket, the same revolver from that night, and fired once. Taz's gun fell to the ground. One of his boys bolted. The other froze, hands up. Smoke hung in the air. My ears rang. Taz was on the ground, clutching his leg, cursing in pain. Earl walked over, calm as ever, and kicked the gun away. You done, he said. This ain't your war no more. Taz glared up at him. You think this changes anything? You still just an old man. And him. He pointed at me, blood running down his arm. He's still lost. Earl looked at me. You believe that? I didn't answer. I just looked down at Taz, a man I once called my brother, and saw what I could have become. Sirens echoed somewhere in the distance. Earl stepped back. Go home, he said quietly. Now. I hesitated. What about you? I'll handle this. Handle how? He smiled, tired, proud. The same way I've handled everything. By facing it. I didn't understand then what he meant. Not until the next morning, when the news broke that a local veteran had turned himself in after a shooting at the community center, claiming self-defense. They said the man refused medical treatment, refused a lawyer, just asked for one thing, that the old community center be reopened for the kids in the neighborhood. I watched it on TV, numb. Earl had saved me twice now. Once from my own stupidity, and once from the war I thought I had to fight. I didn't cry, couldn't. I just sat there until the sun came up again, staring at the paint still on my hands, the same color we used on those walls. It hit me then, he'd never really been trying to save me from the streets. He was teaching me how to survive after them. And that's when I knew what I had to do next. The morning after Earl turned himself in, the whole block was buzzing. Word traveled fast, faster than truth ever could. Some said he shot Taz in cold blood. Others said it was self-defense. Most people didn't care about the details. All they cared about was that the old man who once ran the streets had gone out on his own terms. I walked to the community center before sunrise. The city was quiet, that strange hour when even the sirens take a break. When I got there, the paint we'd put up looked different in the dawn light. Softer, like it carried something sacred now. The cops had already come and gone. Yellow tape flapped in the wind, and there were still blood stains by the front steps. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. Earl's words kept echoing in my head. You fixed the little things so you got the strength to fix the big ones later. That's when I realized he'd left me the biggest thing of all to fix. This place and maybe myself. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything smelled like paint and dust. The back room, the one with the names on the wall, was untouched. I stood there, tracing my fingers over the name Leon Carter again. Then I picked up a brush. I didn't have a plan. I just started painting, covering the graffiti that had popped up overnight, fixing the spots we'd missed. I stayed there all day, until my arms burned and my shirt stuck to my back with sweat. When I finally stepped outside, a small group of kids was standing by the gate, watching me. One of them, maybe 11 or 12, said, "You work here now?" I laughed a little. "Guess so." He nodded. "It's better than it was before." "Yeah," I said, looking at the wall. "But we got a long way to go." That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from people asking about Earl, about what happened, about Taz. I ignored them all, but one message stood out. It was from a number I didn't recognize. We should talk. Midnight. Behind the corner store. I knew who it was before I even asked. Rel. One of Taz's closest boys. I didn't know if it was a setup or something else, but I went anyway. When I got there, Rel was leaning against the dumpster, hoodie up, smoke curling from his lips. His eyes looked tired, not scared, just done. You came, he said. Didn't have much of a choice. He nodded. You heard what happened? I was there. He studied me for a second. Then you know it wasn't supposed to go like that. Taz, he was trippin'. That old man didn't deserve it. I didn't expect that from him. So why you hitting me up? I asked. Because Taz got people who ain't gonna let it slide, he said. They think you were in on it. They think you helped the old man line him up. My stomach sank. Who's they? He shook his head. Don't matter who. Just stay away from the south side for a minute. That's where I live. Then move. Tonight. He started walking off, then stopped. Look, Eli, I know you ain't soft, but this thing, it don't got rules no more. You want to honor that old man? Keep his name clean. Don't pick up no gun. Don't make this worse. Then he was gone, fading into the shadows. I stood there, the city noise creeping back in, and realized something I hadn't before. The streets didn't fear Earl because he was violent. They feared him because he'd learned to walk away and still keep power. I went home and packed a bag. For a week, I stayed at my cousin's place across town. But I couldn't stop thinking about the center. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that wall of names. Earl had built something that was supposed to last, and now it was on me to make sure it didn't die with him. So one morning, I went back. The neighborhood was different, colder, emptier. But when I got to the community center, someone had already been there. The front door was kicked open, and the place was trashed. Paint cans spilled, windows cracked, benches overturned. On the back wall, where the names were, someone had spray-painted 3 words in red. He died for nothing. I stood there, staring at it. My hands shook, not from fear, from rage. I wanted to find whoever did it, make them pay. But I heard Earl's voice again. Revenge don't fix nothing. So instead, I grabbed a bucket and started cleaning. Took all day. By sunset, the graffiti was gone, and the wall looked clean again. But I didn't stop there. I went next door, talked to the old lady who used to live across from the center. I asked if she still had the keys to the utility room. She did. That night, I turned the lights on in the gym for the first time in years. The next day, the kids came back. Word spread fast. The rec was open again. I didn't plan any of it. I just kept showing up, fixing things, painting, keeping the door unlocked until the sun went down. By the end of the week, I had help. One of the older dudes from the block, Marcus, who used to hoop there as a teen, brought some spare equipment. Another guy donated some secondhand weights. Even a couple of moms showed up with snacks for the kids. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. Every night, I'd sit on the steps where Earl used to sit, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one. Sometimes I'd talk to him out loud, like he was still there. Guess you were right, I'd say. Good places only die if people let 'em. But peace never lasts long on my side of town. One Friday evening, while I was locking up, a car rolled by slow. Tinted windows, engine humming like a threat. It circled the block once, then stopped at the corner. My gut tightened. 2 guys got out. I recognized one, Rico, one of Taz's cousins. The other I didn't know. Both were wearing black. Eli. Rico's shouted. We gotta talk. His tone didn't sound friendly. I stepped back toward the door, keeping my hand near my pocket, though I didn't have anything in it. I ain't looking for trouble, I said. He grinned. That's good, 'cause trouble already found you. They started walking closer. Then a voice came from across the street, deep, commanding. That's enough. It was Marcus. He was standing by his car, one hand behind his back.
Rico froze.
You really protecting this dude now? Marcus didn't move. I'm protecting the block. You think Earl died just so y'all could tear it down again? Rico laughed, but it sounded nervous. This ain't over. He backed off, got in his car, and peeled off into the night. When the echo faded, Marcus walked up to me. You good? I nodded. For now. He studied me for a second. You know that ain't the last you'll see of them. Yeah, I said quietly. I know. He nodded slowly. Then we get ready. From that night on, it wasn't just me anymore. Marcus started coming by every morning. We fixed the locks, installed cameras, even got some lights for the yard. The kids kept coming. The block started feeling like a community again. But I knew it couldn't last forever, not without blood testing it. 2 weeks later, I found a note taped to the door. No name, just a message written in thick black marker. You next. I stared at it for a long time before crumpling it up. I didn't tell Marcus, didn't tell anyone. That night, I stayed at the center after everyone left. Lights off, waiting. Hours passed. Then, around 2:30 in the morning, I heard it. Footsteps outside. Slow, cautious. The sound of a gun being cocked. I ducked behind the counter, my heart slamming in my chest. I didn't have a weapon, just a hammer I'd been using for repairs. The door creaked open. 2 figures stepped in, flashlights sweeping the room. One of them said, "Ain't nobody here." The other one laughed. "Then let's make sure." They started walking deeper inside. I gripped the hammer tight, waiting. When the first one got close, I swung, caught him in the ribs. He fell back with a shout. The second one turned, gun raised, but I slammed into him before he could fire. The gun went off, deafening in the small space. We hit the ground, struggling. My hand found the hammer again. I didn't think, I just swung. Once, twice, then silence. I sat there, breathing hard, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. When the noise in my head finally faded, I saw the second guy crawling toward the door, leaving a trail of blood. He looked back at me, eyes wide, terrified. "Please," he said. "I didn't mean." I dropped the hammer. The weight of what I'd just done hit me all at once. I let him crawl out, watched him stumble into the street. Then I turned off the lights, locked the door, and sat in the dark until the sun came up. When Marcus showed up that morning, I told him everything. He listened, face hard, eyes heavy. When I finished, he said, "You didn't kill him?" "I don't know." He nodded slowly. "Then you did what you had to. But this changes everything." He was right. That afternoon, 2 squad cars pulled up. Cops took statements, asked questions. They didn't arrest me, said it looked like self-defense. But word spread. By nightfall, everyone knew. Some said I was a hero. Others said I'd just become the next target. I didn't care what they thought. That night, I went back to the wall of names and added one more. Not for the man I fought. Not for Tez. Not for Earl. I wrote hope. Felt right. Like maybe that was what Earl had been trying to teach me all along. That hope was the hardest thing to keep alive in a place built on loss. When I stepped outside, the street was quiet again. But it didn't feel empty anymore. Kids' laughter echoed down the block. And for the first time in my life, I realized something. Survival wasn't about fighting. It was about staying. About building something worth protecting. And for the first time, I believed I could. The next few weeks felt like walking on glass. Every sound, every shadow, every car that slowed down near the corner made my heart skip. Word on the street was that Taz's crew was splitting. Half gone, half hunting for revenge. But the wreck stayed open. Every morning, I unlocked that door. Kids still came, balls still bounced, laughter still echoed. I didn't let fear stop me. If I did, everything Earl built would die again, and I wasn't about to let that happen. Marcus and I started a routine. He'd open with me, Keep an eye on things. Make sure no trouble got too close. He'd been around the streets long enough to see storms coming before they hit. But even he looked uneasy some days. You can feel it, he said one afternoon, sitting on the steps, cigarette hanging from his lip. It's too calm right now, like the air before a thunderstorm. He wasn't wrong. I'd been feeling it too. That tension, invisible but heavy. Then one night the storm hit. It was a Saturday. We just finished a small community event. Barbecue, music, some local kids performing. The place felt alive, brighter than I'd ever seen it. For a few hours, it didn't feel like the block. Felt like a home. When everyone left, I stayed behind to clean up. Marcus said he'd lock up after a quick run to the corner store. I told him I'd wait. 10 minutes later, I heard the tires. A car skidded to a stop outside. Headlights cut across the gym floor through the window. I froze. Then came the gunfire. The glass shattered first, a high-pitched crack that echoed through the building. I dove behind the counter, heart racing. Bullets tore through the walls, splintering wood, sending dust into the air. I heard shouting outside, 3, maybe 4 voices. I crawled toward the back door, keeping low. When I reached it, I heard footsteps, someone kicking it open. A man stepped in, face covered, gun raised. He didn't hesitate. Neither did I. I tackled him before he could aim, slamming him into the wall. The gun went off, deafening inside the small space. Pain tore through my shoulder, but I didn't stop. I drove my fist into his jaw, again and again, until he dropped. Then I heard another voice behind me. Eli, move. Marcus. He came through the side door, shotgun in hand. He fired once, and the street outside went quiet. We stood there, breathing heavy, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. You hit? He asked. Yeah, I said, clutching my shoulder. Just a graze. He checked outside. One car door was open, engine still running. Whoever was left had fled. He came back in and helped me sit. Told you that calm wouldn't last, he muttered. I laughed, bitter and breathless. Guess you were right. He looked at me for a moment, then said, You know they ain't stopping, right? Not until somebody finishes this. I didn't answer. That night, the cops came again. Questions, photos, tape. I gave them what I could, but they already knew. Nobody was talking, nobody was getting caught. On our side of town, that's how it goes. When they left, Marcus drove me to the ER. I didn't say much. My shoulder burned, but that wasn't what hurt most. It was knowing this would never really end. The next morning, I went back to the wreck, arm wrapped in bandages. The kids showed up like nothing happened. They didn't know. They just saw the doors open, the lights on, and that was enough. I stood by the door, watching them play, listening to their laughter echo off the fresh painted walls. That's when it hit me, Earl was right again. You can't kill hope, not if somebody keeps fighting for it. But part of me knew I couldn't just keep waiting for another attack. If I wanted this place to survive, I had to end it. So that night, I went looking. Rel was the only one who'd ever shown me any mercy. If anyone knew where the rest of them were hiding, it'd be him. I found him at a rundown car wash on the edge of the south side. He was sitting on a milk crate, hoodie up, staring at the ground like the world had already ended. When he saw me, he shook his head. You got a death wish showing up here. Maybe, I said. You gonna help me or not? He sighed. You still don't get it, do you? You ain't fighting men anymore. You fighting ghosts. They don't care about money, pride, nothing. Just revenge. Then I'll face it. He looked up, eyes tired but sharp. You sound like Earl. I learned from the best. He hesitated, then nodded toward the east side. Old warehouse by the tracks. That's where they've been meeting. But if you go there, don't expect to walk out the same. I nodded. Thanks. He stood up, grabbed my arm.
Eli, listen.
You don't owe the streets no explanations. Sometimes surviving is enough. I ain't doing this for them, I said. I'm doing it for him, for the kids. He let go. Then you better finish it clean. The warehouse was half collapsed, lit by flickering streetlights and the orange glow of a barrel fire outside. 2 cars were parked nearby. I crept up the side, heart pounding. Inside, I could hear voices, maybe 3, maybe 4. Should have finished it that night. Marcus was there, man. He got eyes everywhere. We handle both of 'em. The block's ours again. I stepped through the doorway. Not tonight, I said. They turned fast. Faces I recognized, but barely. Eyes wild, nerves shot, anger raw. The one in front, Rico, smiled when he saw me. You finally showed. I'm here to end it. He laughed.
Ain't no ending. Ellie.
Just the cycle. Then I'm breaking it. He raised his gun. I didn't flinch. I'd already decided how this was gonna go. Before he could fire, a shot rang out from behind me. Rico staggered back, dropping his gun. Marcus stepped through the shadows, shotgun aimed steady. Thought you might need backup, he said. Chaos erupted. One of the others ran for the door. Marcus fired again. The echo shook the whole building. Another rushed me, swinging a crowbar. I ducked, swung back with a broken plank I grabbed off the floor. Connected hard. The fight was fast, violent, desperate. Dust filled the air, metal clanged. Hearts pounded like drums. When it was over, only Rico was still conscious, kneeling, hands pressed to his bleeding shoulder. He looked up at me, hate and regret mixed in his eyes. You think you changed anything? I stared down at him. Yeah, I stopped being you. He spat blood, laughed, then slumped to the ground. Marcus lowered his weapon. You good? I nodded slowly. I think so. We called it in. Told the cops the truth, or enough of it to sound like truth. They took Rico, took statements, and for once it actually felt like something might end clean. The next morning, I stood outside the wreck again, sunlight washing over the block. The air smelled different, lighter. Kids ran up the street, basketball under their arm, laughing like nothing had happened. Inside, the wall of names waited. I added one more, Earl Johnson. Under it, I wrote something he told me the first day we met. You fix the little things first. Marcus came in behind me, coffee in hand. You did good, kid. I smiled. Didn't feel good. He shrugged. Ain't supposed to. Doing right don't always feel right. We stood there in silence for a while. Then he said, You gonna keep running this place? Yeah, I said. As long as it lets me. He nodded. Then you ain't lost. That night, when the lights went out and everyone went home, I stayed behind. Sat on the steps, same spot Earl used to sit, listening to the hum of the city. The same block that tried to kill me had somehow become the one thing keeping me alive. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own story. I felt present, real, whole. I looked up at the sky, streetlights flickering, sirens distant, wind warm against my face, and whispered, You were right, old man. The streets don't ever change. But maybe if you're lucky, you can. Then I locked up the door, turned off the lights, and walked home through the quiet. The same streets that once swallowed me now somehow letting me pass. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from them. I was walking through them, free.